Hi, this is Scott from Bricklanta, and in this video I'm talking about the BrickTrac LEGO inventory management software and automatic pricing. One of the most powerful and labor-saving features of BrickTrac is its ability to manage your store's prices for you. Whether you have 300 or 300,000 items, keeping up with ever-shifting marketplace prices is a major hassle. BrickTrac can handle all of it, and in a much more granular, sophisticated way than you can do on the BrickLink website or with other software. Let's go to the Business Options form from the main menu. There are three aspects of automatic price setting. Number 1, store options. Number 2, your price strategy. And number 3, price overrides. Currently, and I'm using Build 70, there are 5 tabs in Business Options. We're going to start with the third one, Price Strategy. Price Strategy is your instructions to BrickTrac on how to set prices for items in your store. Currently, you can only have a single store strategy. On the future roadmap, we have the ability to set multiple strategies. Anyway, let's take a look at my current strategies on the table here. You can see 4 priorities listed here. A priority is how BrickTrac executes the strategy. For each piece, BrickTrac tries to get a price using the Priority 1 method, but if it can't, it tries Priority 2, then 3, then 4. Virtually none of my items will ever use Priority 4, but that's fine. There will always be some parts that don't have a price history in my country for some reason, and this guarantees they can be listed for a reasonable price. Let's dig into what each priority here means. Priority 1 uses 100% of the average sales price over the past 6 months. This is the default strategy, and it's what BrickLink presents you on their website. If you're not familiar, we look at all the sales of the same part, same color, same condition, that's new or used, on BrickLink originating in your country over the past 6 months and average that price. But what if some part hasn't sold in the past 6 months? Then BrickTrac goes to Priority 2. Here, Priority 2 is 99% of the average stock price of the item. That means if you look at the BrickLink store right now and check the average price of what's currently for sale or in stock, and then go down 1%. Sometimes if a rare part hasn't sold recently, there are still some for sale, and this priority just slightly undercuts the average. And what if your used parts still can't find a match? Priority 3 here goes back to average sales price, but it looks specifically at new parts. So maybe no parts of the same condition used sold, but if a new one did, we can use that information. Since new parts sell for more than used, I'm using a 75% modifier here, meaning that if Priority 3 gets used, the price will be 25% lower than the sales average. Finally, if all that fails, and it probably won't, we can use 75% of the average stock price for new parts. So that's my price strategy, and it's conservative enough that probably 99% of parts will end up using Priority 1. However, you can get a little more creative with your strategy and take some risks that are less likely to return a price, at least on the first priority. For example, you could try using the 1-month or 2-month average price. There are a lot of rare parts that haven't sold in the past month or two, but you can still use that as your Priority 1 price and then have the 6-month as a backup. Alternatively, I could have chosen to use a 12-month sales average as my Priority 2 before moving on to stock price. And you're not limited to 4 priorities. There are actually 2 other metrics currently available for you to use: weighted average sales price and weighted average stock price. And you can currently choose a time period to look at between 1 to 12 months. One note on the time period: BrickLink only gives us access to 6 months of price data at a time. So when you first start using BrickTrac, whether you pick a 6-month metric or a 12-month metric, you're only going to see the past 6 months of price data. But as you use BrickTrac longer, the app will continue to remember prices, so within 6 months you can use a full year of data. Lastly, on this tab, you have some options to change the strategy you've chosen. If you right-click on any priority, you'll see we have 3 options. You can remove the priority, you can move it up to number 1, or you can move it down to number 3. Let's move it down and see what it looks like. You can see that 75% of average new sales price is now Priority 2. If we move this one down, you can see it's back where we started. It's important to note that nothing you change on this tab immediately changes anything in your store. You can propagate these changes to your store in one of two ways. If you have automatic updating set, prices will gradually change based on your strategy over a predetermined schedule. We'll go over the schedule next. Or when you close this business form after making a change, BrickTrac will ask you if you want to force update all parts immediately, like this. We're going to say no for now because depending on your store size, this could take a while. Okay, back to the business form. This time we're going to look at the second tab, Store Options. There are currently 3 sections to this tab, and we're going to focus on the top 2. First, look to the right. These store settings were determined automatically by your Windows setup. In my case, it knows I'm in the US, and I use the US dollar. These settings are absolutely critical to getting your price updates right. All prices are compared to stores in your store country only. So if I'm using the same price strategy as a store in the Netherlands using euros, we'll have different prices, and we should. Make sure that these are correct. Also, if you do change one of these, know that the prices will all be wrong. You'll need to force a price update on your entire inventory to reset. So, automatic price update. Look at the top left here. There are 3 options when setting up automatic price updates. First is the number of days until prices are considered stale. It's important to note that every time BrickTrac talks with BrickLink, it uses the API. That includes price checks, price changes, seller note changes, refreshing orders, listing a part for sale, removing a part from inventory, etc. And BrickLink has set a limit of 5,000 uses of the API each day. So BrickTrac tries to limit its API use when it can. In this case, we don't refresh prices every single day. We wait until prices are stale. That is, we keep the same prices for a while before refreshing them. The default time period here is 30 days, because I thought that seemed like a nice reasonable number. But you do have the option to change it from anywhere from 1 to 500 days. 1 days means that every day 100% of your items have stale prices. 500 days means that BrickTrac won't even check until a year and a half has gone by. But just because a price is stale doesn't mean it will get updated instantly. In order to spread out updates throughout the month, or whatever stale period you choose, BrickTrac only updates a percent of stale prices each time it starts up. The default is 10%, and if you use BrickTrac regularly, you'll end up with a small number of parts having stale prices each day. You'll notice that I've set mine to 3%. Since I'm developing the app, I open it multiple times a day, and to keep it from using all my API calls and updating all the prices at once, I've lowered the percent. But it's important to note that none of this happens unless the third option, Update Store Prices Automatically, is set to yes. And even then, prices only update in the background when the app starts up, not when you change this option. There is a way to force price updates right now, and you have 2 choices in red here. You can force update all the stale prices immediately, or you can force update your entire inventory. Just remember that depending on the size of your inventory and your connection to BrickLink, this can take a long time, maybe 1 second per lot, for example. You won't break the app if you close it while it's running, it just won't get to finish. If you do choose to do this, know that you run the risk of exceeding the BrickLink API cap, although that has happened only very rarely. The last price topic to discuss is the price overrides. On this tab, you can override the price strategy and set your own price. For example, let's say you bought the right arm of a Goblin King a few years ago and are holding on to it until it hits $100. If it sells today for $100, well, great, but you really don't want to list it for today's average sales price, even if that's your price strategy for everything else. So you can overwrite it here and list it for $100 directly. Just find it by filtering for the location and then picking it, or select by name or number. Choose the item color, and the condition, and the price you want. And click Add New Override. And you can see here, it will get overridden to $100 in my store now. You probably noticed that the Goblin arm has a white background, but all of these other overrides have a red background, and their price is $0. Well, these overrides were automatic, and it's because there are parts in my collection that either could not find a price using the strategy or could not be found in BrickLink at all. For example, here I have a promotional set, True Lumiere 1, which was a Toys R Us set, but BrickLink has a policy not to include promotional sets. So instead of trying to look it up over and over again, BrickLink marked it red and set a price override of $0 and forgets about it. Some items may not even really exist in the color I have here, and you really should double check any items you see here in red to make sure they do exist. You shouldn't have as many as I have here. This comes from testing BrickTrac with weird data for the past 6 months. If you right-click on a row, you see we have a few options. You can click through to the BrickLink price guide page to see for yourself, or view the item on Rebrickable. You can also edit the price, changing it from $0 to something else, and you can remove some overrides if they're no longer in your inventory or if a price can now be found for that item. And that's it for price updating on BrickTrac. A very complicated topic, but it's really set it and forget it to keep your store up to date on prices. In fact, the defaults will take care of you, and all you'll need to do to get started is select Yes on the second tab here. Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get notified when new tutorials get posted.